President Biden has demanded the resignations of 18 former Trump officials from the boards of top military academies. And the list includes, take a look. We got this up on the big wall in the Faulkner Focus. It includes former National Security Advisor General H.R. McMaster, House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, a naval officer he was, the former White House Budget Director, and former Senior Advisor Kellyanne Conway. Well, Kellyanne Conway shot back, saying this: "Your decision is disappointing, but understandable given the need to distract from a news cycle that has you mired in multiple self-inflicted crises and plummeting poll numbers. I'm not resigning, but you should." Veteran and West Point grad Megan Mobbs, who was appointed by President Trump to the U.S. Military Academy Board of Visitors, calls the move purely partisan.
I think it's imperative that we fight for this. One of the last places where we should be politicizing anything is at our United States military academies. And I served alongside Obama appointees, and they were extraordinarily respectful and embraced all of us that were appointed during that period.
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki defended the president's decision.
We're confident in our legal abilities here, but I will tell you, John, no one's looking to have a battle here.
Traditionally, these appointees do serve out their full 3-year term, though.
This really goes back to what every president's right is, which is to appoint individuals they choose because they're aligned with their values, because they're aligned with the qualifications that they deem for any of these positions and any of these boards. And that's what is taking place here. It's not personal.
Tammy Bruce is a Fox News contributor and host of Get Tammy Bruce on Fox Nation. So we got her. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. You just heard Jen Psaki, of course, say, oh, none of this is personal. Of course it is. Every single thing they've done has been just to simply reverse President Trump's plans, his agenda, his accomplishments. It's petty. It's almost a kind of vicious in a certain sense. This focus on eliminating something as opposed to concentrating on governing. You know, this is what's interesting about really good governance, is having people with different points of view so you can stay out of groupthink, and especially at our military academies where you're looking at advice, the nature of being able to talk with people who might have different points of view politically, but we all come together when it comes to keeping this nation safe. We've seen that with the reaction to the Afghanistan debacle. So this, and also happening 7 months, 9 months into Biden's term, is also unusual in the midst, Harris, of clearly an international catastrophe, a military drama heading into September 11th. We don't know what the next few months or few years are going to look like. The stability of what we're doing, and this is very different. This is not normal for these particular kinds of boards to remove people prior to their 3 years. So it's petty. And it seems to be typical these days, unfortunately, of the Biden administration.
Well, what you point out, too, that I think is really important for people to focus on, not only the timing, but who this is happening with, right? I mean, think if you're a Gold Star parent and you have a child at another one of these military academies, and you're trusting now that there is no politics in that environment. Well, now you know there is. I mean, they literally can't get away from this administration.
Well, it's not. It's the politics, and it's even more than politics. It's this bizarre disconnection from the reality of the world. We've seen the woke policies, critical race theory, the distraction of General Milley prior to what was happening in Afghanistan about white rage, and the focus on this woke agenda, which has nothing to do with keeping the nation safe. And if you clearly 13 American families have lost loved ones in this process. Unfortunately, more Gold Star families will likely be created because of this dynamic. So you've got your child in that environment. You at least want some consistency, a commitment to genuine unity, which is what Joe Biden ran on in the campaign.
Right.
And it's as though all of that was a fraud. Americans want unity. We want a balance when it comes to our being able to discuss things. And these individuals were well placed, understand the military, understand the country. To try to remove them is petty and I think, in fact, even dangerous, like his other decisions have been.
So we spoke of military families, Gold Star families. Some of the families of those killed on 9/11 are furious with President Biden right now over his handling of the situation in Afghanistan. and now further engaging with the terrorist Taliban government. It's a stark contrast to former President Bush's message directly following the attack.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. From this day forward, any nation that continues to harbor or support terrorism will be regarded by the United States as a hostile regime. There's no negotiations. There's no calendar. We'll act on our time.
Well, that is not what President Biden is saying right now. Deborah Burlingame, the sister of the pilot who hijacked American Airlines Flight 77, tore into President Biden's tone.
Just listening to that fills me with rage, because I can imagine what the sound bites 20 years from now will be for President Biden. Those speak to everything he's not doing. And I believe we are in grave danger now because this administration is now embracing a terrorist regime.
Tammy.
It's a shocking development, and what that statement by President Bush did was remind us what leadership is and how one person's vision and strength and resolve not only helps the sensibilities of Americans, but messages also to our enemies and to our allies overseas, is whether or not there is a real commitment to national security for this nation, which the world relies on remaining stable and secure. So it's not just the trade and things like that. Clearly, there's a reason why people still want to come here. This remains the beacon for individual hopes and dreams, but also it remains the stabilizing factor in a world that now is looking at a thrilled North Korea, China, Russia, Iran. The Fort Hood shooter is thrilled. We've got all the wrong people happy, and they are continuing, the Biden administration is, to, it seems, Harris, deliberately to signal weakness. It is a shocking dynamic, and for all of us who remember, of course, September 11th and were of that generation, it is terribly disheartening and depressing. Deborah's absolutely right. We've got to get this. We've got to get back on our feet.
Well, my children certainly were not, aware of what was going on when all of that was happening on September 11th, because they hadn't been born yet. But they certainly know what's happening now, and they have lots of questions about how we got back to this point where they know that Al-Qaeda was nesting to hit us. I mean, it is pretty unreal how it's generationally now relevant again. Tammy Bruce, thank you.